Hello, everybody. Welcome. It's good to meet you. Here we have afternoon, almost sunset, and it will be even worse next week after the time change. But let's go for the traditional presentation where we present Q3. Probably you've seen the numbers already, but we will comment it in a traditional format. And by the end of the presentation, we'll open to the whole meeting to questions. I think there is few of us, so we can just have it in a verbal voice manner without the chat, but you can use the chat as well if you wish. A few highlights about third quarter, pretty good quarter, 11% growth, mostly driven by payment and banking. Dedicated solutions have grown mostly in intelligent transport systems for road, tunnel monitoring and smart city business, yes. A very strong quarter for POS business. Actually, POS related services have driven a big hike in the revenues, a little bit diluting the margins, but this was the result of also equipment delivery, which was related to the software and other services that are associated to this business. Very good quarter for independent ATM network, the best actually in Albania. So huge growth in the summer months when we take advantage of the currency exchange business on this network. And one probably from the highlights important point, which is, I wouldn't say is difficult, but worth taking into account, is that due to hyperinflation in Turkey, we have an indexation mechanism with all the customers, but in majority of the cases, this happens only once per year when it is a Turkish lira contract. So you can imagine what is happening. First of all, there is a hike in the first quarter in the revenues, especially transcripted to foreign currency, to euro dollar, but over the time it fades away, the effect, because of the depreciation of lira, growth of foreign currencies in value, and also because of the inflation in costs, so cost effect growing over the year. So typical indexation effect is a very positive effect in first quarter, second quarter also, third and fourth is smaller, and this is especially visible in e-commerce. Let's look at the main deals now that we have in the third quarter. I will just remind that we are not like single 2-3 deal company. There's many small deals that are happening, and many of them are in the process of delivery. But some of the highlights, there were core banking sold in Bosnia and Herzegovina. There is a couple of security solutions with PKI licenses sold to 2 banks in Croatia. A major implementation is continued in Serbia for the core banking, actually 2. Digital originations like loan origination or very digital product, which we are selling in SaaS mode, is being now delivered and rolled out for a very big banking international group. Our anti-fraud solution is now expanding, and especially we have successes on the Turkish market with both banks and payment institutions. Yes. For the dedicated solutions, Live, our contact center and collaboration tool, was sold in Croatia and Bosnia and Herzegovina. ABC is part of the portfolio from the BPM area, business process management, and we sold it for a bank in Serbia. And Dynatrace is the only third-party application here on the list. We have a very good, it's sold only in SaaS mode and model with a very good revenue sharing for us, and it's continuously growing in Turkey for us. So that has a very positive effect for our business, especially cash flows. Yes. In e-commerce, our payment gateway growing again in Turkey as Merchant Safe UniPay. Also Paratika, which is financial intermediary, still loss bringing, but we are entering number 5, probably number 6 now, and between 6 and 5 as positioning on the market, reselling payment transactions from the banks, financial institutions to the merchants, having a cut on this, and this is growing very nicely, and we are happy about it. Yes. For the ATM and POS related services, some major deliveries happening in Q3, as mentioned. Yes. Driving the revenues. Also software solution like SoftPOS sold to a bank in Serbia. Well growing independent POS network, so our own POS network for merchants, where we are installing it at merchant sites and taking a cut on the transaction. This is growing everywhere, but the quickest in Croatia. And major Android deliveries in Spain, complete craziness over Android POS with much more functionalities on software side compared to traditional terminals. And the software is offered by us. Its majority of this is our own software sold in subscription. So this is also pretty good news. And now let's move to the financials. Michał, please.
Good afternoon. This slide is pretty similar as previously. However, we added additional column. And the first column shows total figures as they are in financial statement, the reported ones. And second is results for Q3 in this case, but we've excluded hyperinflation adjustments which were done. Year-over-year differences visible are always calculated to those figures without hyperinflation, which is pure IFRS booking. On top line level, we have growth over 48% year-over-year. This growth in biggest part is done by third-party activities related with equipment and licenses. But if we look at something what we call margin one, so revenues less cost of third-party things that were sold, the structure is different. Over 80% of this margin one is generated by our own licenses or services. At EBIT level, growth in Q3 was almost 11% in euro, and when we look at figures in Polish zloty, so our reporting functional currency, it is over 15%, and the difference between them is due to euro versus zloty relation and weakening zloty during 2022. Below operating profit, we have a positive effect of financial activity. I will comment now total figures as reported in financial statements. So first column, here we have positive difference on financial activity by 1.2 million euro. There are three reasons for this. First are positive FX gains on revaluation of assets, mostly in Turkey and Poland. In Turkey of US assets in dollars, in Poland in euro. This was partially compensated by costs related with remeasurement, update of contingent liabilities for acquisitions and valuation of put options for minority stakes. But we have also a positive effect resulting from this hyperinflation booking. When talking about income tax, effective tax rate it's slightly decreased year-over-year by less than 1 percentage point, and this is partially due to those hyperinflation bookings. Indexation of goodwill is not something what is based for deferred tax, so the gain on this is not taxable. Effectively, we have this growth. When looking at operational figures, so this without hyperinflation, then effective tax rate is pretty similar as in previous year. Let's now move to results by business units. I will start here from profitability. In banking, as you see, it is pretty similar year-over-year. It was generated with growing revenues, 3.3 million more than in 2021. What translated in growth of EBIT by €500,000. And this growth in revenues we had in all three business lines which we have under banking, so core systems, multi-channel solutions, and security related. But the growth of result is mostly in channel business line. When looking at payment, here we have drop of profitability calculated as EBIT versus revenues by 5 percentage points. But this is one of those business lines where we have a huge increase of revenues thanks to delivery of hardware. So it dilutes profitability, but generates margin. Yes, and margin calculated on EBIT level increased by 1.1 million euro. This 15.6 million euro growth of revenues in payment, it was generated, as you see, in all business lines which we have. The biggest growth is in traditional POS business, mostly in Western Europe, where we have mentioned by Piotr deliveries of Android POS, but it was also followed by some increase also on Android POS in Serbia and increases in other countries like Bosnia, Slovenia, Peru, Czechia on deliveries of traditional POS. In this line, we also present a business directed to merchants, so independent POS network and ECRs. Second line with biggest growth is ATMs, almost 6 million euro growth year over year. And here we have in ex-Yugoslavia region, Serbia, Slovenia, deliveries to one of international banks, deliveries of new ATMs. And also we have effect of this good performance of independent network of ATMs MoneyGet in Albania. In processing, traditionally growth is in Serbia, where we have this competence center for processing, and it was generated thanks to dynamic cash conversion services which we sold to banks. We are processing their transactions with conversion. And e-commerce, 700K growth year over year. Here it is mostly in Turkey, but not only, also our payment gateway in Croatia from entity Monri, it also generated nice growth year over year. Coming back to business units, third last business unit is dedicated solutions. Here we have drop of profitability. However, we have also increase of revenues, and big part of this increase is related with infrastructure, which is used in intelligent traffic solutions projects. So those cameras, fans, and so on, which are installed. And this dilutes somehow margin, and it also this drop of results from the stage in which our projects realize in BPM portfolio, and then the ability to recognize. Let's move to results by countries, by geographies. Here we have four most important geographies in terms of positive effect on result year over year. In Bosnia, 700K growth, mostly on intelligent traffic solutions, which I mentioned, but also partially on billings and CRMs, and good performance in banking. In Croatia, 600K growth year over year. Here, very good banking and delivery of channel solution. This is what I mentioned on group level as positive, partially compensated by lower result in dedicated solutions in live and BPM, but also positive payment where we have ATMs deliveries and good result, growing result in merchant-related business, so independent post deployment and ECRs. In Iberia, this growth is mostly in Spain, and it is generated by mentioned earlier deliveries and licenses, software which we are selling together with this equipment, and of course services related, because every device needs to be installed. For geography with growth is this what we call other. There are few geographic here: Albania, Bulgaria, Egypt, Kosovo, Montenegro, and Slovenia. But the biggest part of this growth is generated in Albania, thanks to this independent ATM network, where we have a really good performance year over year, thanks to new services, additional services, and big tourist traffic this year. Two geographies with lower results: Serbia, and this is where the dedicated solutions recorded some drop year over year in BPM portfolio, and Turkey, where we have drop both in dedicated solutions and in payment. In payment, traditionally Q3 is weaker quarter, as this holidays period, and additionally during this year there were long 10 days religious holidays in Turkey, and this affects amount of transactions. Yes, transactions are not performed during holidays, and this affects revenues. Let's move shortly to results for 3 quarters, so accumulated results. The same logic of slide, and pretty the same changes, like logic of changes. Growth of revenues more than 30%, so slower than only in Q3, but similar comments, and on this measure, which we call margin 1, growth mostly on own activities. It's almost 90% is there. On operating profit level, increase 15.6% in euro and almost 19% in Polish zloty. And below operating result, we have similar things as in Q1. So financial activity growth 6.6 million euro year over year.